Hey guys, let's bust another myth. Myth. Let's bust another guru crap or business coaches or politician crap about banking. You know, you've been, people are being blacklisted by banks. That's not true. Oh my goodness, I've been kicked out, from, I think it was Kanye West who came up with this as well. Oh my God, they blackballed me. The JP Morgan has debanked me. That's not true. Nigel Farage as well came up as well and was like, oh my goodness, some politicians are being debanked, for some reason. That's not true. Um, let's talk about this, okay? So here's the point. Why do banks close these accounts? Okay. Yeah, banks have a policy, okay, and banks, I can tell you right now, i i you know, maybe the federal bank could be a strong, close enough, but they're not, right? If you're watching right now, if you're watching this video, just go in and look at, um, or just Google the relationship between Donald Trump and the head of the Fed in the U.S. Okay, and I can tell you right now, they're back and forth an argument. In fact, several times Trump has threatened to fire the head of the Fed, Jerome Powell. Why? Because the Fed doesn't have the power, right? The Fed, the central bank, they set the interest rates, they set the margins, they decide how much interest banks charge each other. That's how strong and powerful the Fed is in the US for the strongest currency, one of the strongest currency or pivotal currency in the world, US dollars, right? Even in that, they you know, they still have to bow to the president, the government. Okay. Even though they don't admit it, they do. Okay. And that's the same thing with banks. Okay. So I'm the CEO of, if you can't tell, I'm the CEO of Oruka. Oruka is a fintech app. And I can tell you, we have to stick to regulations. So before I started, that's the expensive thing. So a lot of people can start any business. If you wanted, you can start a cake shop tomorrow. You won't worry about your hygiene. But the most expensive part for us, I can tell you, as part of starting a fintech from scratch, and we're still doing it now, is the regulation across every country. And still, I can tell you, as a fintech bank, we're still not regulated to hold money. So when customers give us money on their rings, so again, these rings allow you to make payment, and also you can track your fitness and health levels. So if you see here, there's a button here that you click, and then you can see obviously your vitals. I don't want to show how unhealthy I am, but it tells your fitness, and then from there as well, you can tap to make payments. You can order this online. But here's the point: we're a fintech, so we're not even authorized to hold customers' money, and we deal with banks as well. So that's the level. Even with this and the months and months of preparation we had to do, and all the paperwork we have to keep, all the KYC we need to do. KYC is know your customers, anti-money laundering checks we do. We still have to bow to pressure to the regulators. If the regulators come through the door and ask questions, we have to answer immediately. Um, I'm talking to my customers here, but to me, I think the regulators are number one because they actually protect the customers, and that's the only way we can do business by making sure that we are regulated, and then the customers are next. Okay, before investors, I don't care about investors. I don't care about VCs or private equity. Luckily, we have our own money to survive, and our customers pay our way. However, I think that's important to know that banks are scared of regulators. We are all scared of regulators, right? So that means when someone, if there's any slight chance that we believe that one or two, some or anything is suspicious at all, we block the accounts. Then the question becomes how quickly you work on it. So for us, if we block an account, I try and make sure that I'm there 24 hours, okay? So they can call me and escalate all the way up to me. Like I'm talking to you now, but if my phone goes or my laptop goes and there's a ping, which is an L1, whether for any reason, I drop off and I run into it as well. Um, no, but that doesn't work if you get up to 10 million customers, okay? Luckily, we're not there yet, or we'll. Um, so if you get up to 10 million customers, then you can't be there. But what you need to do then as a CEO or as a head, is to make sure you empower people below you. Okay, people who are reporting to you to make sure that they have enough power to actually make decisions and can walk through these things. And that's what's happened with a lot of banks where the account gets closed. Okay, so if you say something that you shouldn't say, if you say something that's risky or that supports one government or the other or supports the Afghan, for instance, if there's terrorism going on in one country, I say Afghanistan, but it could be any country. It could be Nigeria. I mean, we were on the blacklist for a while. It could be the UK. UK had a huge tariff issue with the US recently. It could be any country at all. Switzerland are always good, luckily for me. It could be any country at all. Okay, but the truth is, if that happens politically, you find yourself into a political space, and then the banks are nervous, right? They have to stop, right? So what will happen is the first thing they do is actually block your account or debank you, or just say we don't want this risk. And the regulator comes to them the next day, they're like, "Whoops, we debanked that customer. That's no longer our customer. Get out of here." Who does explain why the banking happens? And the stupid thing is the fact that a lot of politicians, so I said it because Nigel Farage was asked this, okay? If someone comes to you and asks you, and you're a politician, you know nothing about banking, you've never stepped your foot into banks, ever. You've never worked in banks for a no matter what he claims, you could do like consultants for 6 months, 3 months, not the same. You can invest in the bank is not the same. My investors, I don't have no investors, but but people who have investors, any fintech that has an investor, okay, the investor knows nothing about the actual day-to-day running. Okay. I always talk about this as well. Kevin O'Leary, one of the top investors, yeah, he knows nothing about running business. He advises. It is money in there. He's seen a lot from the outside. Yeah, it's as much as you've seen a lion eat and you claim you know what it is to eat raw meat. Silly analogy, but you see what I mean? Like you're seeing things from the outside. Okay, if you've got 10, you've seen a childbirth, like, oh my goodness, I know childbirth because I've seen women scream and I've seen 10 women go through childbirth. You never know because you're a man. You don't know. Yeah. I don't know if that's a good analogy again. I don't know, but my point is you don't see things from outside and claim you know it. So politicians should just learn to shut up and not claim that they know about banking when they don't, right? And so, a lot of politicians who believe that they've been debanked, it's not true. The point is, banks, especially, are the most transparent of people. If that happens with discrimination, it comes up straight away. The banks are really open on that one. So yeah, so please, 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 that's not true. Um, and know from me on the inside, I can tell you right now, what usually happens is one person hears the conversation, it comes up on their profile, and as soon as that comes up, the bank needs to take away that risk from them. Otherwise, they could be blocked. They could be banned from the regulators. And that's all that happens. It's always from a fear, point of view. Same thing with, I mean, okay, we talk about this a lot. And I think there was an argument there with the whole, in the US when there were a few changes or law recently, right? If you have a bakery, you could decide who you serve. Okay. That's true. So you can kick some people out and say, I'm not serving you. So banks could do that. Businesses could do that. Okay. But I don't think any bank in their right mind does that unless for some reason there's a very, very strong reason. Okay. Strong reason could be political views because they believe that the ruling power, I mean, look who's in charge now, Trump in the US. Now, if Trump for some reason, which is the case, right? You turn around and you say negative things about Trump, and then Trump turns around and says to you, hey, it talks to you as a bank. What are you going to do? Again, I can tell you right now, the banks will try and go to the Fed, okay? But the Fed themselves are already in trouble with Trump. So it depends on the kind of power you have within a country. At the end of the day, banks operate within a country. Okay, we know the case around, crypto and how crypto are accepted in some countries or the other. If it was that easy, right, then every country would accept crypto because every person, like right now, I know most of my customers want crypto, but we have to send them to countries. We only accept cryptos from countries that are already friendly to crypto. That means banks work within those remit. Yeah. So the worst thing or the most silly thing any politician or any celebrity or guru can say is to say that banks act in one way or the other. I'm not here to defend banks, but I can tell you banks are not in isolation. They work within powers within a country. That's how it works. I'll move to another topic. I think I've talked a lot about that one. Banks must tell me exactly why my account is blocked or closed. And I mean, I wish that was the case, right? And I tell you why because I'm on your side on this one, right? So I make sure that my customers know exactly what's going on, but that's only because I have the freedom to do that. I'm a fintech company, so what that means, I can say exactly, hey, this bank blocked you, we should try this bank. So we're independent. Okay, so that means we have if we go into the US, we have a lot of network of customers in the US. We have a network of banks in the US, so that we can say, okay, you should go to this bank, you should try this bank. Same thing as well. We have banks in like all over the world. Okay, so I work with a lot of banks. Right now, I'm going to get off this call. I'm going to a bank in Canada and talk to a bank in Canada. But in truth, we work with a lot of banks, so we can have the freedom to decide how it works, and we can tell you decisions as well. But a bank is the end goal in the sense that when that does happen, banks can't tell you why. Okay. And when I say banks, right, I say banks as if it's the CEO or the heads. The CEO and the heads can, right? Eventually they can. And they can do it a lot quicker. Okay. But and I talked about this on one of my other videos, right? There's a zero, I think 0.5% chance in the 80s or the 90s, and it's come up to about 3% recently. So 3% of all customers, right, gets the accounts blocked, like it's blocked 3%. Think about that. So if you've got 10 million customers, that's about 3% of customers, of 10 million people who's got the accounts blocked. And these guys have to walk through that. So what happens then? It goes down to compliance guys. Compliance guys goes down to compliance assistants. It goes all the way down so that the person you're talking to in general is always some customer service guy who's trying to escalate it all the way up. And all they do is they keep telling you the same thing over and over again. But they don't know why, right? They can't even explain why. They can't say, "Oh my goodness, your email was wrong, or your IP address is picking a different address, or you say you claimed you've never been to, Iraq, but somehow you just came from Iraq." We can tell that you logged on from Iraq. We can tell the banks can tell, when you log on, and it's for your own protection. So if you log on from Iraq, you've always logged on from London. For some reason, you log on from Iraq. They can either block that transaction or they try and see if that's you. And they see that's you, then that's a profile already for you. So what that happens then is, for some reason, Iraq becomes a banned list, it's going to come up and go, this customer should be banned or should be investigated. The investigation means that it's under investigation, and under investigation means they can't explain that or say that to anyone. So what that means is they can't tell you. That's a long story of telling you that. That means it's a concern. It's under investigation, and if they talk, they get in trouble, especially if they're junior, because they don't know what to say. Um, so what's the best way around that? I've said I'll have a video on that one as well. But the best way around that, I repeat, is just get multiple banks. Get 2, 3 banks, get a fintech, get a payment ring, and just be diversified so that if that happens, you just allow them time to investigate. And if you've done nothing wrong, trust me, they will find out eventually if you've done nothing wrong. They're going to ask you as many questions as possible. Answer their questions. Now, I hope you've seen enough. If you've watched my videos, you know enough to know that banks are not asking because they just care or they're just being nosy. They want to know because they need to know and put a profile around you and show the regulators that they did their due diligence and they did their work. That's what they need to do. And that's why they're doing that. So if for some reason they ask you, who did you send the money to? Why did you send it? You've never sent it to this person. Why? Show us a receipt, show us proof, show us invoices. You can always push back on some silly comments. But in truth, if that's the case, then you just need to give it to them so that they form that profile and it's not going to happen again. If it does happen again, then that's incompetence, right? And in that case, please come join us. We're always taking customers. Then the other point then is, you know, if you, okay, this is a funny one. If you hold high balances and you transfer a lot of money into your bank account, then they will never close you or they'll never block you. That's not true. And I can tell you because obviously I've worked in banking for 20 years. I worked in, actually one of the trial, okay, yeah, I can talk about this because Credit Suisse are gone. But during the Russia war, when that started, one of the first instructions we got was to find out straight away, boom, how many customers have links to Russia. You have to do it. It's a regulation. It comes straight from the government, or you lose your license, your banking license the next day, right? Or you're under investigation for as long as possible. Then you can serve millions of customers. If that happens, I think again the first thing is you do is, hey, you look into it, you find out which customers are involved, and then you report them, okay, or you just pass that on to authorities. If for some reason you don't know, okay, or you can't tell, then you debank them. Okay, that's the truth. You just be like, well, I'm not really sure, but to save you money, to make sure that your money is not blocked, you debank them. And that's as simple as that. However, here's the other point. That means that all banks have a profile on you. That means we know. Okay, we know, and it's for your own good. Okay, so I have a customer that's always going to London to spend. The person is always in London, gets their salary, which is about 1,000, is for the sake of argument, $1,000, £1,000 in London, and then they always spend $500, and they spend in this shop and this shop and this shop and this shop. That profile is set. such that we know, okay, and we use a lot of AI. I've said this about AI. AI has been in banking forever, okay. One of my first jobs in, city was actually robotic process automation, where it just picks up all the, simple tasks that people do, okay, and a bot does that task for people. And you'd be surprised the manual things we do in banks, okay. I mean, as manual as someone coming in, oh, the paper is coming. Someone comes in, picks up a piece of paper, stamps it, checks the signature, sends it on, packs like every day. So what we had to do first thing years ago was to set up this bot that actually does that, so you don't have to do it. The bot looks, sees what the person does, and does it. And then the person now becomes a manager that checks on these bots that do it, and it could have about 5 to 6 bots. I say that to say that right now we have bots for everybody, okay, and it protects you as a customer, because if for some reason you always spend your money in the UK, you receive your money in the UK, spend your money in the UK, and for some reason someone uses your card in Morocco, you block it immediately. Like, done. And then, but here's the other point we can tell, so that if for some reason you go from the UK, right, and it tells you, so AI does this, it looks at it and goes on the profile as well, your track record. So if for some reason we see that you bought a train ticket in London airport, and then you bought a train ticket in Starbucks in London airport, and then London Luton airport for some reason, and then from there you flew from Luton to Marrakesh, but then we know we can see the track. Okay, unless you report the card missing, we're not going to block it. Okay, and that's where the difference comes in between an intelligent AI and a silly, let's call it process AI that just looks at the black boxes and takes it here and there. Okay, so the point I'm trying to make there is the fact that be careful, because banks know your profile, such that if for some reason big money comes and you think, oh my goodness, I have a lot of money here, this is going to be a good thing. It's not a good thing, because it goes against the ordinary track that you normally do. It's the same thing as your mom and dad. Imagine if your mom and dad, for some reason, oh, sorry, let's see here, your mom and dad, and for some reason your son comes home every day. Your son comes home with, sorry, excuse me. Your son comes home with $10 every day. Okay, $10 day one, day two, day three, and okay, $10 is not a lot of money. They come in, and the next day they come with a wad of cash of 100,000. The first thing you do is, where'd you get the money from? And you're not going to say, "Oh, give it to me because I'm going to trust you, and it's definitely positive." No, you you know you're apprehensive. That's the first thing you do as a parent. You look at the cash, you make sure, where did you get this money from? How did you get this cash? Put it aside, and then investigate. That's what banks do. So please don't think for some reason you get X amount coming in every month, and then the next day you come in and you just sold the flat, and then the flat just comes in and expect the bank to just say nothing. And generally, what happens then is banks would actually block that transaction, or they expect the transaction and monitor your account, and will block your account to look into it and ask you, hey, where'd you get this money from? Again, it's suspicious. Okay, it's not like it's anything wrong. It's suspicious. And if you have a small fintech app that we have, or if you have an agile company like us, what we do is we would just go in, and actually the person there and then is equipped. The person looks at it and goes, okay, I approve. If you have a big bank, which I'm not going to say, but if you have a big bank, if you join a big bank that's got 50,000 customers or 50 million customers, 100 million customers, okay, if that happens, guess what? The person that's just blocked that transaction can't look at it. So what they're going to have to do, they're going to have to escalate it. So you have to wait. When then that person below that, depends on how much it is. If it's over 100,000, they don't have the power, they take it up. So they keep going up. And then before you know, you're stuck in for months, right? Trying to find out or figure out what's happened to your money. And I'm going to repeat the same advice I give to everyone, which is just get multiple accounts. If that happens, let's hope it's not the money you used to pay your way to work the next day. It's not the money you used to feed, because you should have a payment ring that you can tap to pay. Or you can have a fintech app, or have something else that you can use, okay, in general. But please be careful with that one. Then the last point, which I've said, I think I've mentioned this already, but I'll say it again, is one bank account is enough for you because of fees. And no, it's not. Please get multiple bank accounts, because things go wrong. The bank could go down. Banks are investment house. They could invest money and go down. And they could have a bank run where everyone just wants their money out of the bank because of some rumor that's gone around recently. If that happens, then guess what? You'll be stuck. So what that happens, you need to make sure you have multiple accounts. Please have multiple accounts. Have one for your savings, have one for your retirement, have one for your day-to-day expenses, which you call an expense account. It could be on a ring, could be on a card, it could be on your phone. But wherever you go, you don't want to have, carry around cash, or wallets or phones or your material possessions are more important. And then for some reason, again, if you wanted to, if you're a husband and wife, you can have two expense accounts as well. And then lastly, your primary account, which is where your salary comes in, but you make sure you move that money across as soon as possible. Banks are not going to pay you for holding the account. Some fintechs charge money these days. They'll charge you 5 to 10 per subscription per month. That's okay, because in truth, if you look at it, when the bank does go down, when the bank goes down, there's a lot more that you lose from there. So please, please, please have multiple accounts. I can't say it enough. You're not loyal to your bank. You're not married to your bank. Your bank will not reward you for loyalty. You're just a number to them as well. So that's it. Then I'm going to stop here for now. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining this conversation with this band. Or dispel any silly rumors that's come from coaches or from real estate gurus, right? Suddenly bankers or accountants that claim to be bankers. And stick to what you know and do your own research. Bye.